My ex-wife cheated on me and then abandoned our daughter outside my house. I uncovered her lies, got full custody, and she was ordered to pay me $25,000. The whole ordeal began with a painful discovery about my ex-wife's unfaithfulness. Danielle and I had been together for 6 years. Our relationship started in a typical way, coworkers who eventually fell in love. After I got a better job offer at another company, we were able to be more open about our relationship. Things got more serious, we married, and had a beautiful daughter, Sarah. It had been a while since I'd seen my parents, so for Thanksgiving, we planned a visit. It was also important for Sarah to spend quality time with her grandparents, connecting with my side of the family. When we arrived, my parents were thrilled to meet Sarah, and we all had a wonderful dinner, catching up on lost time. As the evening went on, Sarah started getting tired, so I excused myself to put her to bed. Danielle stayed with my parents, chatting away. Like most kids, Sarah begged me to let her play video games for a while. I couldn't resist her pleading eyes, so we played a game on her tablet. I got so caught up in it that I lost track of time. When I finally noticed the hour, I put the tablet down, tucked Sarah in, and went back to join Danielle and my parents. As I sat on the couch, still holding the tablet, I noticed a text message notification pop up. The sender was someone named Chad, and the message read, "Missing you already." I froze, confused and shocked. Why was my daughter getting such messages from someone named Chad, especially in the middle of the night? I quickly realized that the tablet was actually Danielle's, and it was synced with her iCloud account. Her phone messages were showing up on the tablet, since she hadn't logged out of her account. I nervously opened the Messages app and started scrolling through Chad's conversations with Danielle. My jaw dropped in disbelief. Their texts were filled with intimate details about their secret meetings and their plans. Danielle had even confided in him, telling him that she no longer loved me, but didn't want to be the one to end the relationship. My heart sank as I realized the depth of their affair. When I clicked on Chad's contact photo, I was stunned to recognize him as our neighbor. I'd only met him a couple of times, but reading their messages made it clear that their relationship had gone far beyond what I had ever suspected. Danielle confessed to Chad that she hated how I didn't give her attention because of my work, and she was happy to get all the affection from him. Chad, in turn, expressed how much he enjoyed being our neighbor because it allowed him to visit her whenever Sarah and I were out. Their messages were so explicit and disgusting that I felt physically sick just reading them. I couldn't believe what I was uncovering. Danielle's affair was a shocking revelation, the kind that made my heart race and left my mind reeling, struggling to grasp the reality of it. I quickly took photos of all their texts as evidence, my hands shaking with fear. I was terrified Danielle might catch me snooping and realize I'd discovered the affair. I also didn't want Sarah, my young daughter, to accidentally see these messages. Despite her age, Sarah was sharp, and I didn't want her to be exposed to such hurtful truths before she was ready. After gathering all the proof, I uncinced and wiped the tablet clean, knowing Danielle's phone would have the same messages as further proof. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, trying to understand why Danielle would cheat on me. The next day, with Sarah out for brunch with my parents, I decided it was time to confront Danielle about her betrayal. I needed answers, and there was no way she could talk her way out of this one. When I confronted her, she initially denied everything, like a child caught in a lie. But I had the evidence, texts, calls, and undeniable truth. When I showed her the proof, she broke down. Tears flowed, and the guilt she'd been hiding spilled out in sobs. She admitted everything, but blamed my work schedule for her actions. Chad had apparently been her comfort during the rough times. She claimed to regret it all, but I didn't know if she was sincere. Then came the question I dreaded. How long had this been going on? Her answer hit me like a punch to the gut. She'd been having an affair with Chad for a whole year. A year of betrayal while I worked tirelessly to provide for our family. The weight of her confession settled in, and all I could feel was the intense pain of being betrayed. The trust we had built was shattered, and in that moment, I broke down, unable to hold back the tears. The flood of emotions overwhelmed me. Danielle tried to explain herself, but her words were lost in the chaos of our shattered marriage. The confrontation escalated until my parents returned from brunch with Sarah. They saw the distress on our faces, their concern clear. My dad quickly took Sarah to her room to shield her from the turmoil. Left alone with my mom, I shared the painful truth about Danielle's affair. My mom's face went from confusion to disbelief, before settling into a deep frown, her disappointment heavy in the room. Meanwhile, Danielle continued to try to justify herself. Danielle continued to cry, playing the victim, trying to justify her actions. She poured out a string of excuses, claiming that my demanding work schedule had pushed her into this affair and that she would never have done it if I had given her more attention. According to her, Chad had become her source of comfort during our tough times, and I shouldn't be blaming her. She said she regretted everything, but I wasn't sure if that was sincere. When I told my mom that Danielle's affair had been going on for a year, her face turned bright red with anger and disbelief. Without wasting any time, she looked Danielle in the eye and told her to leave the house immediately. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence as I stared at Danielle, who continued to cry, acting as if she were the one wronged. I told her that she needed to leave and that Sarah and I would stay and continue the holiday as planned. Feeling the weight of our judgment, Danielle stopped arguing, nodded, and went upstairs to pack. About 10 minutes later, she was gone. As the door closed behind her, the gravity of the situation sank in, and the silence that followed was overwhelming. Alone with my thoughts, I was consumed by a mix of emotions: betrayal, anger, and an intense sadness that seemed to take over. The next few days were incredibly difficult as I processed everything. My mom, who had witnessed the emotional turmoil firsthand, shared the details with my dad. His reaction mirrored her shock and disbelief. The betrayal wasn't just painful for me, but for my parents as well, who had welcomed Danielle into the family with open arms. Sarah, our 8-year-old daughter, kept asking where her mom was. Faced with the challenge of protecting her from the harsh reality, I lied, telling her that Danielle had to leave unexpectedly because of work. The look of confusion and sadness in Sarah's eyes broke my heart, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth just yet. The following days were a blur of emotions. As I struggled to cope with the collapse of our family, my parents provided me with much-needed support, offering comfort as we all tried to process the betrayal. What was supposed to be a joyous holiday, with family now felt tarnished by the shadow of deceit. We tried to salvage what little was left of the festive spirit, but the air was thick with unspoken words and broken promises. Every moment served as a reminder of what had been lost, and the pain was palpable as we tried to find a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. Eventually, the time came for us to return home, and the thought of stepping back into the house, where my wife had betrayed me with another man, filled me with anger. I knew our marriage was over, and I needed to tell Danielle to move out soon. My mind was made up, and nothing was going to change it. When we returned home, Danielle was waiting for us. Her eyes were filled with pleading, and she opened her mouth as if to apologize. Sarah, unaware of the turmoil that had unfolded, ran into her arms, embracing her as if nothing had changed. It was a painful sight, the innocence of a child against the backdrop of a broken marriage. I knew we needed to talk, so I took Danielle to a private space away from Sarah's curious gaze. Danielle began to apologize again, her words filled with remorse and promises to make things right. Danielle insisted she had cut all ties with Chad, but I couldn't help but roll my eyes at the idea. After all, Chad was still living next door, and there was no way she could just avoid him. A bitter laugh escaped me as I confronted her with this inconvenient truth. She looked at me as if I had lost my mind, genuinely puzzled. I stared her down, my words firm and resolute. It's too late for any apologies. No matter what you say or do, I'm done with this. The shock on her face deepened, the realization finally hitting her. You really cut off contact with Chad? I asked, my tone dripping with disbelief. He's literally next door, Danielle. You can't just pretend he's not there. She stumbled over her words, trying to explain herself, but I'd already reached my limit. I wasn't about to tolerate any more lies. I didn't need any more answers. It's too late for explanations, I stated. every word carrying the weight of finality. I'm filing for divorce. The impact of my words was undeniable. Her face registered a mix of shock and dawning comprehension. She tried to beg for another chance, to salvage something from the wreckage, but I was unwavering. The truth had been exposed, and there was no going back. The silence that followed was thick, heavy with the realization that everything had changed. There was nothing more to say. Everything had already been broken beyond repair. It didn't take long for Danielle to pack up and leave. I filed for divorce, and the legal battle that followed was grueling. Fortunately, we had a prenup, so Danielle and her lawyer couldn't make any demands. The evidence of her affair had already made it clear that she had been the one to destroy our marriage. Still, the custody fight over Sarah would be far from easy. After months of back and forth, we reluctantly agreed to a 50-50 custody arrangement for the sake of our daughter. I made sure to comply with the court's child support orders, hoping that it would provide some sense of stability for Sarah. Danielle moved back in with her parents, and though our marriage was beyond repair, I still kept a cordial relationship with her family for Sarah's sake. The time with Sarah was divided evenly between us, a fragile balance to ensure that she felt loved and supported by both of us. Despite everything that had happened, when Sarah was with me, I made an effort to create happy memories. We'd go shopping for essentials, and I'd let her pick out toys or clothes, indulging her whenever I could. But after some time, I began to notice something odd. Danielle seemed to be neglecting Sarah's well-being. She wasn't allowing her to wear the new clothes I'd bought her, or to enjoy the little things that every child should have. Every time I picked up Sarah, she was wearing old, faded clothes. It didn't make sense. I knew she had plenty of new outfits waiting for her. I cautiously asked Danielle why Sarah wasn't wearing the new clothes I had bought her. Danielle waved it off, claiming Sarah was saving them for special occasions. It didn't sit right with me, but I chose not to press the issue. Co-parenting was already a challenge, and I wanted to keep things as calm as possible for Sarah's sake. Still, the unanswered questions lingered in the back of my mind as I focused on making the most of the time I had with my daughter. Driveway alone, and I wasn't about to let her get away with such recklessness. The sight of Sarah standing there, vulnerable and abandoned, made my blood boil. I wasn't just angry with Danielle. I was furious with how she had treated our daughter. It was incomprehensible that she could leave her child alone, without a second thought. After getting Sarah settled inside, I tried to keep my composure. She was already shaken up, and I didn't want to add to her distress. While she ate, I immediately contacted Danielle, hoping to express my frustration and figure out why she thought it was okay to just drop Sarah off like that. When she picked up, I was hit by the chaos in the background: laughter, loud voices, clinking glasses. It was clear she was out at a bar, and the slurred edges to her voice confirmed my suspicions. She was drunk. "Why didn't you let me know you were dropping Sarah off?" I demanded, my voice tinged with anger. "I would have left work earlier if I'd known she was out there alone." Danielle's response was dismissive. "She's your daughter too, you know," she said, as if that somehow excused her neglect. I could feel my patience running thin. She wasn't listening, and it became evident that this wasn't the time to have any rational discussion. I told her we'd talk about it the next day when I dropped Sarah off. Danielle laughed, almost like she wasn't taking this seriously. She then told me to read the note she had given Sarah, which I found odd and unsettling. Sarah handed me a crumpled piece of paper, and as I read the message inside, my stomach dropped. The note said that Danielle no longer wanted to take care of Sarah, citing the inadequacy of the child support payments. My jaw clenched as I processed what I was reading. I had been paying substantial child support, and yet she had the audacity to complain, even going so far as to put Sarah in a dangerous situation just to make a point. I wasn't going to let this slide. I wasn't going to let her play games with our daughter's well-being. I immediately called Child Protective Services and the police to report her for abandoning Sarah. I had CCTV footage from my security cameras showing Danielle dropping her off and leaving her alone on the driveway. It was concrete evidence that she couldn't deny. This was the breaking point. I had to protect Sarah, no matter what. I was alone in the driveway when the police arrived. They took the situation seriously and asked for the location so they could arrest Danielle for endangering our child. After filing a formal complaint, I spoke to my lawyer about seeking full custody. Danielle had cheated on me in the past, but I had let it slide for the sake of our child. However, after she put my daughter in danger, I couldn't let it go anymore. We decided to move forward with the custody request, backed by the police report I had filed against her for abandonment. Danielle's parents called me, shocked and asking why Danielle was calling them from jail. I explained the situation to them, and they were extremely concerned. While they understood that my actions were driven by a need to protect our child, they begged me to reconsider pressing charges against Danielle. Despite their emotional plea, I stood my ground. The safety of my daughter was my priority, and I couldn't overlook Danielle's reckless behavior. I explained to her parents that the complaint wasn't made lightly. It was a response to a serious situation where my daughter's safety was at risk. I told them that the legal action was necessary to ensure such an event wouldn't happen again. As I spoke with conviction, trying to emphasize the need to protect my daughter, their pleas became more desperate. They asked me to drop the charges, citing Danielle's mental health and the possible consequences for her. Still, I remained firm in my decision. I had tolerated a lot for the sake of our child, but when it came to her safety, I couldn't compromise. The tension between us grew as they tried to find alternative solutions, like supervised visits or counseling for Danielle. While I appreciated their concern, I couldn't overlook the fact that Danielle's actions were a complete violation of trust. In the end, I made it clear that I had made up my mind to pursue full custody to provide a stable and safe environment for Sarah. I told them I would be sending someone to their house soon to collect all of Sarah's things and bring them back to my place. Sarah was overjoyed by the news. I knew how important it was for her to have peace and security in her life, and I was happy to give that to her. A few weeks later, we were called to court. My lawyer presented a solid case, revealing the neglect and manipulation Danielle had orchestrated. We showed the judge the note Danielle had given Sarah to deliver to me, while leaving her on my doorstep for over an hour without notifying me. We also pointed out how every time I bought Sarah something new, Danielle would refuse to let her wear it, which was why Sarah always looked disheveled. Despite Danielle's lawyer trying to defend her, the judge saw through her attempts to manipulate the situation. It became clear that the support meant for our daughter was being misused, likely for Danielle's personal gain. In a surprising twist, the judge not only ruled that Danielle would lose custody of our daughter, but also imposed a $25,000 fine for misusing the child support I had been paying her that year. The judge understood the severity of her actions and decided that the penalty would also cover my legal fees. Honestly, I never expected Danielle to be penalized in this way. It was a bittersweet victory, but it guaranteed a better future for my daughter, free from a mother who had lost her way. Since the court ruling, I felt a deep sense of peace knowing that I'm the one who'll be taking care of Sarah, as expected. My ex-wife and her family have continued to message me, claiming I was too harsh on Danielle. They said abandoning our child wasn't a big deal and insisted that I'd be a terrible father. But I stand by my decision, knowing I did what was necessary to protect my daughter. Update 1. Thank you all for understanding the gravity of the situation and the reason I sought full custody. I don't know if Danielle is going through a breakdown, and frankly, I don't want to know. Regardless of her situation, she should have spoken to me first instead of leaving our child alone in the driveway. The past few weeks have been blissful. I've been creating a routine for Sarah and me. Our mornings now involve waking up together, with me helping her get ready for school. I've even been watching YouTube tutorials to perfect my ponytail skills for her. No matter what Danielle and her family think, my commitment to Sarah is unwavering. I will provide everything for her, so she never feels like she's missing out on anything. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and I've been very busy with life. The reason for this update is that some mutual friends revealed Danielle's pregnancy. Apparently, she's 3 months pregnant with Chad's child. When Chad found out, he begged her not to keep the baby. But Danielle insisted on proceeding with the pregnancy, which led to him leaving her. This explained her erratic behavior recently. Danielle found herself in a financial bind and couldn't ask her parents for more money, so she resorted to selling the new clothes I'd been providing for Sarah. This cleared up why Sarah couldn't wear the new outfits, as Danielle had been claiming she was saving them for special occasions. It also made me realize that her request for increased child support was likely an attempt to secure more funds for her second child. What disgusted me the most was her complete irresponsibility. Despite knowing she was pregnant, she left Sarah at my doorstep and went out drinking. It's hard to fathom such negligence. I'm grateful I fought for full custody of Sarah, considering what Danielle might have subjected her to. With the arrival of her second child, Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and things have been going great. Sarah and I have grown even closer, and I can proudly say that I'm doing everything I can to provide her with the best life possible. Things have been going well as a single parent. Danielle hasn't attempted to contact me or show any interest in meeting with Sarah in the past month, so I'm hopeful that she won't disrupt our peace any further. With the new year approaching, I've planned a special surprise for Sarah, a trip to Disneyland. Knowing how much she adores all the Disney characters, I'm eagerly looking forward to seeing the pure joy on her face when she discovers the magical adventure that awaits her. I'm determined to create lasting memories and continue cherishing every moment we spend together.